This is the Corsair M65 Pro RGB. Featuring a new 12,000 dpi sensor, Corsair have ditched laser in favour of optical. But was this a good decision? And is the M65 Pro the best first-person shooter mouse out there? Over the last week, I found out. So then, the M65 Pro. Corsair have taken the M65 and swapped out the sensor, and if you haven't seen the M65 before, it's a very good looking mouse that's geared more towards the first person shooter end of the market, as it cuts away with any buttons that you probably aren't going to use, with one big central sniper button located on the left hand side of the mouse, and the rest is more of a simplistic design that you can customise to how you like. So, starting with the back of the mouse, you'll find the new Corsair logo, and this is illuminated with RGB lighting, so if you do want to change this in the Q software, which you no doubt do, you can do this, and you can also choose an array of effects as well. And the underside of the mouse also glows with a nice glow depending on the colour you choose. Moving up the mouse, you'll find your DPI up and down buttons, along with the DPI indicator light to tell you exactly what mode you're in, and then you'll find your left and right clicks and your scroll wheel. Now, my original M65 did have a little bit of a squeak to it with the scroll wheel, but I can't say I've found the same thing with this, which is good. And then you also find a very small text of Corsair engraved on the left click. And moving around to the left hand side of the mouse, you'll find the staple of the M65, which is of course that sniper button, which I personally find incredibly useful in both gaming and non-gaming applications, and in its default state it sets your DPI to 400, though I changed this to 800 in the software, but the point is you can change it to be whatever you want it to do, whether it's a media key, a macro, whatever else you want if you don't get on with having it as a DPI lowered setting. And it's also worth noting that the indicator light on the top of the mouse does actually change to blue all the time you're holding this button down. Located just above the sniper button, you will find your backwards and forwards buttons, and these are in a nice place, and I find it's very easy to access these, and I use these as special grenade and primary grenade in Call of Duty, just to give you an idea of the sort of things you could do with it. But overall, all the buttons are in a nice, easy to reach place, and there aren't any of these extra buttons that I find very difficult to get to, and that I'm not going to use in the first place. And the overall shape of the mouse is very nice, very easy to grip, and while I wouldn't say that I have a particularly abnormal grip, for my grip, which is probably more the claw grip, I find it to be very comfortable indeed. But it's not just the shape that impresses, it's the material build quality as well. On the underside we have an aluminium body, and then the top end of the mouse is a more sort of hard clamshell plastic. But the cable as well, it's USB of course, but it's braided cable, and the end is color coded so you can see when you're plugging it in or out whether it's the mouse or not. Turn the mouse over and you'll reveal that optical sensor, and this is a 12,000 dpi sensor, which in theory should make it better at all DPIs lower than this, but I'm not really sure that it does. But regardless of that, the old M65 had a DPI of 8200, but more importantly this used a laser sensor. Which is better between an optical or a laser sensor? Well, we don't want to start a flame war about it, and all I'm going to say is that it depends down to the individual mouse and the individual sensor, because you can't really say an optical sensor is better than a laser sensor or vice versa, because it's going to depend entirely on the mouse and the exact sensor that is used. But elsewhere on the underside you'll find the weights, and these are removable, and you can customize it so you don't have to have all of the weights on, all of the weights off. So if you want to change the center of gravity, you can do this. Personally, I quite like the fact that you can go from quite light to quite heavy. I do have all the weights in for my personal use, but I can see the appeal of taking them out for a lighter mouse. So that's it for the physical overview of the M65 Pro. It's more or less identical to the original M65. There's a few differences here and there. Of course, that logo has changed, but you do have the RGB features as well on this one. So if you did have an older M65 without the RGB, then it might still be worth considering for something other than that improved sensor. The RGB lighting itself can be customized to different colors, different effects, and if you have a Corsair keyboard or headset, and we all know how I feel about RGB headsets, very pointless, but that's a story for a different day, you can actually synchronize them. So this is quite cool if you want to have a Corsair K70 RGB rapid fire like I've got on my desk, because you can synchronize the effects between the keyboard and the mouse, and it's quite clever actually, because you can then have some pretty cool visor effects, it's called, where the lights travel from the left hand side of the keyboard all the way to the right and onto the mouse, It's pretty damn cool. You can get some stuff customized, but it's not really a feature that anyone really needs to worry themselves about. It's just if you just so happen to have a Corsair RGB keyboard, this is quite a nice thing to do. And of course this is all configured through the Corsair Q software, and it's been around for quite a while now. It's had quite a few updates, it's very stable and gets the job done quite nicely. You can calibrate the mouse itself to the surface you're using it. You can customize that RGB lighting and its effects. You can configure all the different buttons as well, so if you do want to change the DPI of the sniper button to 800 like I have, you can do that, or to whatever function you want it to do. But overall it's a nice simple bit of software that's very easy to use and is fairly light as well, so it's not going to hog too many resources. But of course a gaming mouse is all about its performance, and it's going to live or die based on how well it performs. So how well does it perform? And the answer is very, very well. I've been using an M65 as my personal mouse for the last 3 years, and I've tried a lot since. There's quite a few I like the Roccat Tiyon, but nothing has quite come close to just beating the M65, and I've become so accustomed to that sniper button because it's so useful for everything I do. Even when I'm not gaming and I'm editing videos, it's really nice to just be able to tap a button and then have a bit more control over the editing. Sniper button aside though, the performance of this thing is slick. It fits really nicely in your hand, and as a result it handles very well. The left and right clicks are really satisfying, but ultimately it's that sensor with its really accurate tracking that makes the main amount of difference. Playing first person shooters with this game is a real pleasure, as I found out in some Battlefield 4, and just overall it's a really nice mouse to use no matter what game you are playing. Now, I probably should mention again that I have been using the M65 for the last 3 years. So while I was very excited to get hands on with the M65 Pro, I can't say I noticed too much of a difference. In all honesty, it feels very much the same. And if I was going to tell you that this thing, it might be a little bit better, I think that's probably just a placebo effect in all honesty, and I don't have any hesitations to go back to the M65 that I was using before if I need to. But that can't be taken as too much of a complaint, because I really love the M65, and this mouse is just a better implementation of that. I think the overall black design is a lot nicer, I think the logo on the front looks a lot nicer, and of course you've got those RGB features that overall just make for a better mouse. But if you are expecting to upgrade and get a better tracking experience, then I think you're probably not really going to be getting too much for your cash. And so I think that nicely brings us towards the conclusion. This is my favourite mouse. This is the best mouse I've used to date, and if there is something better out there, I haven't yet tested it. But it's remarkably similar to the old M65, and I think unless you do want those RGB features, there's no need to upgrade at all. And if you've just bought yourself a normal M65 RGB without the Pro version, you really don't have to worry about anything. But if you've never used an M65 before and you play a lot of first-person shooters, this is one hell of a mouse. It's my favourite mouse, and it easily wins the Editor's Choice Award, because at the moment, until something better comes along, this is my new and personal mouse. And so there we have it. A massive thank you for you guys for checking out this video, it's highly appreciated. A massive thank you to Corsair for shipping out the review sample for this video, and of course for sponsoring the channel as always. If you do want to see some more mice reviews, you can check out the review of the ROG Sparta in the top right hand corner. This is a wireless high performing mouse, or if you want something with a few more buttons, why not check out the Corsair Scimitar review, also in the top right hand corner. If you like this video, please give it a like, and if you didn't, likewise hit that dislike button, but please let me know why you didn't in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. A massive thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next video.